Well, with no state fair this year because of the pandemic, many Minnesotans had to go without their end of the summer tradition. But if you are craving a taste of the fair this weekend, we are about to take you on a trip down memory lane. In this week's Maury Glover's Maury Stories, take a look at the history of the Great Minnesota Get-Together.
Minnesota, we are south of Manitoba. We are east of North Dakota. We got something really rare. It's fulfilling, entertaining. It's true culture you'll be gaining. Except no imitations, it's the fair.
Usually on a Labor Day weekend, the Minnesota State Fairgrounds are packed with people enjoying the 12 best days of summer. But this year, the buildings and boulevards on the fairgrounds are empty for only the 6th time in the fair's 160-year history.
The last time I wasn't working at a fair in the summer, I watched the moon landing, so it's been a while.
State Fair General Manager Jerry Hammer has been working at the fair for 50 years.
And there were a lot of flower beds here because I know I spent plenty of time planting and watering them.
And in that time, he's seen what makes it so special to so many.
People have a fundamental need to get together and to share experiences. That's what it's all about. It happens to be structured in Minnesota as an agricultural fair, but the total is far greater than the sum of the parts.
The state fair actually started before Minnesota was even a state, as a way to show off the territory's agricultural potential and attract more people to move here. After the first official fair in 1859, the Great Minnesota Get-Together traveled from city to city around the state, before settling down halfway between Minneapolis and St. Paul, in what later became known as Falcon Heights.
In January of 1885, the Ramsey County Board owned a poor farm, a 200-acre poor farm located outside of the city limits in what was then called Hamlin, Minnesota, because of Hamlin University being right down the street, and that was right here. So Ramsey County donated those 200 acres to the state on the condition that the State Agricultural Society operate a fair, annual fair in perpetuity on that site.
Over the next few years, the fair was home to several historic moments. Then Vice President Teddy Roosevelt delivered his signature speech, including the line, "Speak softly and carry a big stick," for the first time at the grandstand in 1901. The first plane flight in Minnesota took place on the fairgrounds as well in June of 1910. And a pacer horse named Dan Patch wasn't horsing around when he set a world record for the fastest mile by a harness horse in 1906, a record that stood for decades.
He was all over souvenirs. They were selling lunch boxes and playing cards and posters. And he's really the reason, and the popularity of that type of horse racing is why we have the grandstand we do today. Truthfully, it's the house that Dan Patch built.
Even though the current grandstand was built for horse racing in 1909, it later became a popular spot for car racing from the 20s through the 60s.
The smell of scorched rubber and the dying echo of a roaring motor are faint in the stands now.
After that sport's popularity reached the finish line, the grandstand took center stage for some of the world's top entertainers like Jerry Van Dyke, the Smothers Brothers, and Diana Ross and the Supremes. The oldest attraction at the fair is Ye Old Mill, which was built in 1915. Another permanent attraction, the Sky Ride, was added in 1964, while the Space Tower hit the stratosphere with fairgoers the following year.
When you get away from like the old mill, which was the exception, you just don't see that at fairgrounds anywhere. Any kind of permanent attraction like that, and this was a first.
But everyone knows the fair is all about the food, and the first one on a stick was the Pronto Pup in 1947. A vendor saw people standing in line for them on a Chicago sidewalk and brought the State Fair staple back with him to Minnesota.
They were an incredible instant hit. They've retained the same typeface and font and logo, and it's banquet on a stick and wiener done in the bun. Still there, still a thing.
After all the food I've eaten now, I only have a hunch. I'll go out on the midway and I'll probably lose my lunch.
From the Midway to Machinery Hill, the State Fair has evolved over the years from a mostly agricultural showcase to the second largest state fair in the country. And if most Minnesotans get their way, it will be back next year, bigger and better than ever.
We all own the fair. We all have ownership in the fair, and the better the fair gets, the more tightly we all become bound to it, and it truly is part of our Minnesota DNA.
The Minnesota State Fair. For more than 100 years, it has accurately reflected the attitudes and conditions of the people of Minnesota.
Yeah, in a normal year, this would be full of people.
But for Hammer, the empty grandstand is the only witness he needs for one state fair tradition.
But somebody needs to do this. So, okay, we all set? Some things need to happen, fair or not. We need to carry on.
For Maury's stories, Maury Glover, Fox 9.
The whole population's at the fair.
Yeah, just by watching that, you can put yourself back there at the fairgrounds, and we miss it. This is the 6th time the fair has been canceled. The first two were in 1861 and 1862 because of the Civil and Dakota Wars. The third time was because the fair did not want to compete with the World Expo in Chicago in 1893. And the fair was also called off in 1945 because of World War II and in 1946 because of a polio outbreak. When it